Okay, so it's the top of the hour. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining this Rittal webcast. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about a thing called Riassure. Now, some of you may have already heard of that or used the service in the past, but the aim of this presentation here is to just talk a little bit about cooling and then get into what Riassure is, how it can benefit you, your site, your products, etc., and basically just give you some information surrounding Riassure. So best thing to do, let's get stuck in. Okay, so first off, just a brief introduction. So my name is Karl Lycett and I'm the Climate Control Product Manager for Rittal UK. I joined the business in November 2017. Previously, I've worked as a product manager in other sectors, and before that I was a mechanical design engineer in the oil and gas sector. So I cover all aspects of the climate control product portfolio for Rittal UK, so that means both the industrial and the IT side of the business. There's my email address there, so if you have any questions outside of this presentation, any projects you need help with, or just any queries, etc., feel free to jot that down and send me an email at your leisure, and we can have a chat and get you sorted out, no problem at all. So, with all that said, let's get into the meat of the presentation. So firstly, as I always like to do, just to make it clear for some people who maybe don't have any experience in this field, is what is the role of climate control? Why do we talk about it, and why do we stress its importance in everything I do especially? So let's get into that first. So straight away, let's have a definition of what climate control is. So it works in conjunction with an enclosure to create a protective environment for our installed equipment. So installed equipment, we're talking about, as you can see from the picture on the screen, we're talking about factory equipment, we're talking about PLCs, drives, transformers, all those good things that keep our systems running, keep the arms going, as you can see on here, the robotic arms for whatever we're making in this factory or wherever you work, whatever drives, control your palletizer, your furnaces, all that sort of good stuff. That is what we're wanting to protect because it's your money maker. It keeps the lights on, keeps the products going out the door, and it's extremely important to protect it correctly. So if we have an enclosure, the aim of climate control here is, as you can imagine, to maintain an adequate internal temperature inside of the enclosure, also referred to as a set point. So that's a temperature at which all of your equipment inside can operate acceptably. It's not going to be damaged in any way, and it's going to be able to give you many years of long life and service. So climate control is going to protect against high temperatures. This is the one that most people tend to think about when you think of climate control, or we might refer to it as cooling. So that's normally the biggest issue we tend to have, in most applications. But on the flip side, we also need to protect from low temperatures because they can be just as damaging to the equipment if left unchecked. Also, condensate, which can come due to high fluctuations inside the enclosure or other sort of types of issues. Condensate can be a dangerous thing, and we'll cover that a little bit more. And then also we're protecting from dust, dirt and corrosive substances from getting inside the enclosure and attacking all that lovely neat wiring and all those beautiful brand new drives. They're going to get all gunked up with debris and detritus, and it's just not going to do them any good at all. So first up, let's talk about the main driver of most of my discussions, which is temperature issues. So the general story for any site, regardless of what you do, is the fact that temperature issues add up. So if we have high internal temperatures or a high internal set point for a prolonged period of time inside of an enclosure, that will lead to a reduced performance and lifespan of your electrical components. And, most of the things I see when I go onto a site, I see enclosures, we're not talking sort of like a couple of £100 worth of kit in these things. These days, electrical equipment is very expensive because it's very advanced, it's high performance, etc. So there's a lot of gear. You know, you can be talking 100k plus in some of these enclosures or more that I've seen when you have these big rows of enclosures. We want to protect that, and you want to get your money's worth. We don't want things going pop every time it gets to summer, and you know, every year you're having to waste your budget on buying spares. It's just, you know, you wouldn't do it at home. You wouldn't want it happening on your car. So why do you want it happening in the workplace? It's just not an efficient use of time or money. So from that reduced performance or reduced life, you're going to see that the reduced component life is going to equal higher levels of maintenance needs and also the possibility of unexpected breakdowns. So from a higher maintenance side, what I mean is, you know, most sites only have a certain number of engineers, and most engineers will tell you they're overworked and have too much equipment to look after, which, you know, can be the case sometimes with the penny pinching that goes on with personnel. So if you look after your equipment properly and cool it correctly, when summer comes, you can rest easy. You don't have to worry about it. You can crack on protecting something else or maintaining other things that need regular maintenance, rather than having to go, oh God, this week, this random enclosure, a drive's gone down because it's been cooked by the hot temperature, and you've had that unexpected breakdown. Because again, I've been to large sites where they have these constant flowing sort of maintenance schedules, and if one line breaks down, it messes up the process further down the line, and every minute that's down, that's hundreds, possibly thousands of pounds going down the drain because you can't get product out the door. So at the end of the day, an unexpected breakdown is just not acceptable, and we want to try and reduce and or fully prevent that if we can. So from there, then, if we're going to have breakdowns, we're then going to start to see reduction in production output and also the overall efficiency of the plant. And this is when you're looking from a higher, more macro view. These are the sort of things that obviously management and those executives care more about, which is, you know, if it's bread, for example, or crisps or something for a consumer market, thousands and thousands of boxes need to go out every week or every day, depending on what it is. If they don't go out the door, that's when you start to see shortages in, you know, in different shops, etc., and people start kicking off, and the company starts to get a bad name. So as you can see, this tiny thing we've been talking about is really snowballing, and all of this culminates in the final thing, hitting where it hurts, in the wallet, which is increased costs and loss of profit, which managers, owners of businesses just do not want. Because again, you know, if you're wasting money on buying spares or because you're paying for breakdowns, etc., you've not got that money there saved in your budget for that shiny new widget that would have made your life a lot easier. So at the end of the day, a small investment now can pay dividends for the next 10, 15 years if you play your cards right and do things correctly from the offset. So that's the temperature side of things. The next one is dust and debris. Now, regardless, I don't think I've ever, maybe one or two, but I've never really been to a site that manufactures anything where I've not walked in and thought, oh, there's some sort of dirt or contaminant in the air here. You know, even in an office, if anybody remembers what an office is before this whole working from home business, you know, dust is settled on everything once everybody's gone home at night. It's on your desk fans, it's on your computer, etc., etc. It all needs wiping away. So when you go into a factory environment, you know, you look at the picture I've got on the screen here, you look at somewhere heavily dirty with dust and grime and maybe oil from like a machining shop, or even places like a bakery where you're going to have sort of yeast extract in the air and vinegar extract. Those sort of things, they get inside the enclosure and they attack your precious equipment. So what you need to be doing is looking to choose a suitable solution that really caters for the environment that it's going to be placed in. You know, is it near the sea? Then there's salt, sort of water, vapor in the air. That's another thing that you need to think about. All these little things, you know, you might not think about because your job is not to focus obviously on cooling. That's our job. But if we can come and talk to you, these are the sort of things where we can really pull influence and really help you out. So failure to do so and failure to choose, a correct solution can cause particulate or dust blocking internal equipment fans, and it can cause then hot spots or lack of airflow inside the enclosure. So you might actually have an adequately sized cooling unit on your enclosure, and you think, yeah, I've spec'd it properly, I know I'm sorted. But if it's all blocked inside, or there's a PLC packed right in the middle of loads of different other bits of product that's all gunked up and covered in dust, it could be boiling itself alive because its internal fans are all blocked, but you think everything's hunky-dory. And secondary, if they are blocked over time, all that will happen is it will damage the wires, it could possibly cause like short circuits, etc., and it will cause component failure. And then you get that infamous smell when you open the enclosure, which is the sort of smell of burnt out PCB or burnt out board. It's definitely a smell you get when you open these really hot panels. You think, oh, something's not right in here, something's going awry. So it's definitely something that you really need to keep an eye on. Next one is condensate. So moisture inside of an enclosure, that's going to damage your electrical components, and frankly it's a safety risk, because if it's left unchecked and gets into an extreme situation, it can possibly cause short circuits as well. So simply, there's just a couple of key points that we need to make sure we're preventing the formation of condensate inside of our enclosure. So the first one is enclosure integrity. So what I'm meaning there is you need to maintain an adequate IP rating inside of your enclosure. If you mount a cooling unit on the side, you need to make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions, you use a seal if necessary to make sure that the hole that you've made is nice and sealed and not allowing the ambient air to leak inside of the enclosure, because that can cause issues. As well, if, say, for example, you used to use fans and filters and now you've moved to a cooling unit, I have that a lot, where people then just sort of leave the fans and filters on, or they sort of cover them with cardboard, which is just not going to cut the mustard, I'm afraid. You need to cover those or replace those panels properly with steel and really make sure that that ambient air, which is dirty, is hot in comparison to inside the enclosure. It needs to not go inside the small ecosystem that we're trying to create, the small atmosphere, if you like, that we're trying to create inside of the enclosure. So the next thing is obviously controlling both the maximum and the minimum set point. So as I sort of alluded to earlier in the presentation, most people think about cooling and they're like, oh, it gets really hot in the summer, which it does. I need to bring down the temperature. It needs to maintain at 35, whatever number we've decided to go on. However, you need to also think about the middle of winter on a weekend when everything is turned off. Once everything's turned off and everybody goes home, even in the Sahara Desert, they get freezing temperatures at night, and they get the boiling temperatures in the day. So it's very much a similar sort of thing for most places in the UK as well. So you need to be installing adequate heating in there, enclosure heaters, to make sure that that floor, as well as the ceiling temperature inside your enclosure, is maintained between a nice limit, because otherwise that fluctuation up and down and up and down and up and down is going to cause condensation to form, and if left unchecked, can be dangerous. Okay, so that was just a very quick jump through why climate control is important. We can obviously cover that in more detail in other webcasts, etc., as I have done in the past, and we have recordings of those webcasts. But now I want to get into the meat and potatoes and talk to you about Riassure, the service, and basically how we can help you with the things I've just discussed and how we can eradicate those issues from ever arising. So, first off, simple question, what is Riassure? So Riassure, in a nutshell, is a service offered to appraise your existing climate control solutions. The aim of the service, from Rittal's point of view, we want to improve your process efficiency, and we're going to do that through practical advice and solutions. Frankly, as well, we also want to strengthen our relationship with you, and we want to become a trusted business partner. As you may know, if you've seen, or if you know much of Rittal, or you've seen much in the past, we are not a fly-by-night company. We have been here for many years, and the reason we are the best in the world at what we do, especially in climate control, the reason we are the best is because we work with our customers on a long-term basis. We make long-term relationships. We know your sites through talking to you, and we can give you good advice. We're not in there for a quick sale of a new product and then we'll see you in 5 years when we've got a new one. Our job is to come in to help you solve your issues, give you practical advice, and also, you know, we have a large product portfolio that we can provide access to. And the great thing about our portfolio, as you can see from the power band at the bottom of my slide here, we sell all of our products. They link to each other and they do something that complement each other. So we have enclosures, power distribution, climate control, we have IT infrastructure and software and services. So again, I'm covering climate control, but you also need to power your equipment and you also need to house it in an enclosure. So all of our products, when you start to talk, you might think, oh, I need a new cooling unit, for example, on this enclosure, but the enclosure's a bit tired. It's been in since the 80s. So there we can help you with a brand new enclosure, which will have massive improvements compared to the old worn out things that you have on your site, and there might be ways to make your job quicker and easier, etc., etc. So as I've said, Riassure focuses on climate control, but at the end of the day, whoever comes out and does the Riassure visit for you is there to look and use their knowledge of our catalogue, which is very large if you know it, to basically make you more efficient in any way than we can. So we will advise you on the best practices in climate control. We will also advise you on any products or services opportunities that we've identified during the review. And basically just it's a general chin wag in a sense of what we believe to be the correct actions for you moving forward. You know, I've done plenty of these visits where afterwards I've gone to somebody, you know what, you're actually doing really well here. You've heeded the call, you're doing the right thing. There's not much we can improve here. However, you can eke out just a little bit more efficiency or a little bit more effectiveness by doing X, Y, and Z. So it might not be a case of, you know, you might have the right products. That's totally fine. But it might be, oh, you need to just increase your maintenance regime, or, oh, you could really do the service contract and get this thing appraised every year to make sure it's ship shape and shiny. It's all those sort of things that, like I say, we are the specialists in. You guys are the specialists in what you manufacture and what you do. So we need to work together to make sure you take it to the next level. So first things first, you have the free cooling review. So simply, the cooling review is a short visit by your local area sales manager to visually evaluate your climate control equipment. Basically, they'll have a wander around the site with you. You can take them to any maybe key areas where you've been having overheating issues, or you have maybe this enclosure needs to stay working because the equipment inside basically is the brain of the operation. If that goes down, we're up the creek without a paddle sort of thing. You can take us to those places, we can have a look at it for you and visually evaluate and ask questions and basically use the knowledge that the ASMs have to check out your current install. So they'll visually check your cooling equipment first off. Is it suitable for what it's trying to do? Is it functioning correctly? Can they see any alarms, or can they see maybe it's been installed incorrectly, or something's not quite right? And also serviceability. Has it been serviced? Does it look like it's coming to the end of life? Are the bits hanging off of it? Is it filthy? Could it really do with a maintenance visit, etc.? So then they will compile a basic report detailing all this information that they take on, basically just sucking in as much information as they can from the visit around the site. And then they will provide feedback with the recommended actions moving forward. So once the review is complete, the area sales manager will collect all the data. It comes back internally to the Rittal service team so we can record everything. And if it's deemed that more work needs to be done, i.e. an advanced inspection, we will generate the required quotations and then provide them back to you so you can decide whether you wish to undertake that inspection. So advanced inspection. What is involved in this? So this is excuse me. This is an additional inspection that is a paid service. So basically, if we've come to your site and we've seen that, oh, there's actually a lot more opportunity or issues here that we need to solve, or we need a lot more data, etc., and it's more than the scope of the standard Riassure visit, that would be when we'd move into the advanced stage. So the ASM would say, yeah, we need to do advanced. The service team at Rittal would create the relevant quotations. It may be like, oh, you need a service personnel to come to site for a full day or half a day, etc., to do any particular actions that we have deemed necessary. These quotes will be given to the ASM, and then they will contact you directly to discuss these next steps. Because again, when we created this system, it's very important to us that it's not just bobbed over on the email to you. You know, everybody gets hundreds of emails. These emails can be lost. It's not as easy to be detailed and elaborate what we need or what we mean on an email. So the ASM will ring you and talk to you. They can even come back and visit and speak to you about it if necessary. So that's definitely part of what we want to do here. All about that trusted business advisor, as we mentioned it earlier on. So once you've had the discussion, the service team will then contact you directly. They can confirm a suitable date or dates for the site visit so they can undertake the advanced inspection. And when I say dates, plural, we've had many sites, you know, there's many of you out there who work on very large sites for, you know, very well-known manufacturers where there's a lot of equipment, and we've had people on sites for a week, 2 weeks. We've had people on site for 2 hours. It all depends on your needs and is tailored as such. So the actions that can be specified for the advanced inspection are as follows. So first off, it may be you require thermal calculations, because that's never been performed before. You might just have legacy cooling equipment or no cooling equipment at all. That still happens. But you might not know the heat loss of the equipment inside your enclosures. And as you may know, that is the very sort of lifeblood of the information that we require to be able to do our job effectively. Because if we don't know how much heat is being created, we can't adequately tell you what remedy you need to put in place to actually defeat the heating and keep the temperature down. So we may have to come and input data loggers inside your enclosures. These would be put in for a period of time, and they track air temperature and allow us to take that information away. And from there, we can ascertain how much heat is being generated inside the enclosure. Sometimes as well, if it's particularly a hotspot situation, as I mentioned earlier, we can perform thermographic photography, where we look at if there's particular air routing issues or the enclosure is particularly clogged with equipment. It may be that hotspots have been created, and moving of equipment or putting in internal fans, etc., may improve the situation somewhat. Also, some places require us to create asset lists of their enclosures or their cooling equipment. You know, some places are so large that they literally don't know how much equipment they have, and it's become a bit unmanageable. So we can help with things like that, creating detailed reports and taking photography of all the data and equipment you have, and basically putting it in a nice neat file so you've got that for moving forward. We can also perform energy saving calculations and return on investment calculations. So it may be a case of we've said to you, oh, you could really benefit with using our new Blue E Plus cooling units, which are the most efficient cooling units that you can get there on the marketplace. They might, you know, but you may need to take that to a management type who needs a business case. So we can happily work with you on that and create those energy saving calculations, show how much energy you use now, how much you would use if you swap to whatever we've recommended, and basically how quickly that would pay back, etc. You know, create that business case, help convince whoever needs convincing, so you can get the project signed off and underway to hit whatever targets, whether that's energy saving, efficiency targets, etc. And then finally, you know, in some instances, if necessary, we can also undertake power usage collection sort of projects, if you like, where we can install equipment for a period of time to basically prove the arguments that we're making, you know, it may be quite a high investment opportunity for your business where you can make big swathes of energy saving, but you need some proof before you make the purchase. So we can install units for a period of time, put monitors on there and compare it to the old equipment, and basically have a graph showing you know, how much energy has been saved. And then, as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So after all this has been done, you've had your advanced inspection, etc., you then go on to the follow-up. So the ASM will be given all the final reports or inspections, etc., and they will come and deliver it to you in person and discuss. As we said, it's very important that it's done in person. So the focus of the follow-up is very simple. Are you happy with the information that you've been provided? Do you understand it? Do you have any other questions that you need answering to confirm the path ahead? You know, if there's something, a great hurdle that you still need to get across to move forward with the recommended actions, i.e. you need more information about the service contract we've recommended, or the resizing of the units, or the timescale for commissioning, etc., etc., we can confirm all that with you so you have a great view and vision of the path going ahead. The other thing is, as well, as we've said, this is not you know, a one-shot thing. If you're a multi-site business, or you have larger sections to your site, and maybe we've just been dealing with one assembly line, etc., if you have other issues on your site or other sections that could benefit from Riassure, we can talk with you about that. We can plan this in. Sometimes we do these things in phases. Like I said, you might have assembly line 1, 2, and 3. We could look at 1, get that sorted, then 2, then 3, or we could do it all as a oneer. That's totally up to you. The whole thing is in your hands. We're here to basically give you our wealth of knowledge that Rittal has, you know, picked up over the many, many years we've been, you know, manufacturing and selling and basically being the best at, you know, producing these cooling units. And we want to give that to you, because at the end of the day, you know, we want you to be happy. We want your equipment to be running, because if it's running, it's making you money. And that's, you know, it's very important. So that's how the follow-up ends. So that's basically Riassure in a nutshell. We have a little bit of collateral here that I'd like to just make you aware of as well, so you can request a copy if you like. These may come of use. So we have a brochure. Brochure looks like this, and it basically just covers the key points of the service. It's also got a chart in there explaining the importance of cooling. If you'd like a copy of that, you're more than welcome. We have it digital, and we also have physical copies. It may be something you want to take to a superior or hand around to some colleagues of yours. You might have thought of somebody on site, oh, Big Dave could really do with this service. I'll get him a brochure. That's no problem at all. The other one that is very popular is our thermal labels. So this, for a lot of people, is their sort of gateway into Riassure, or their gateway into improving their cooling. So basically these labels you can see at the bottom here, they get stuck on the inside of your enclosure door. The little blue section you can see there is like a temperature sensitive strip, and basically if the temperature increases above the acceptable level, so this starts at 37 degrees Celsius, those little squares will black out and they will stay black forever then. So you can pop one of those inside your enclosure, leave it for a few days or weeks or whatever, and then just open the door and have a quick gander at it and go, oh, it got up to 43 degrees inside my enclosure, it's overheating, I need to get that checked, because we're not even into summer yet and that could actually cause issues. So it's a good way to nip any issues in the bud. You know, give your local ASM a ring and go, I need you in here sooner rather than later, so we look at this and make sure nothing goes awry when summer comes. If you would like a brochure or some thermal labels posting out to you, you're more than welcome. We have the email address there, cooling@rittal.co.uk, or you can pop an email to me if you like. My email address was at the start and will be on the next slide. So finally, I would just like to thank you all for coming to the presentation today. Again, my name was Karl Lycett. If you have any questions, please type them in the questions box now. I'm more than happy to answer them for the whole class. If you want to send me an email, feel free. There's my email address there on the screen. Also, get yourself onto LinkedIn. Check out the Rittal UK LinkedIn channel. We put a lot of information on there. We do videos, we do other webcasts, we put information, we put links to stuff that Rittal Germany are doing, headquarters, etc. It keeps you in the know of new products and new ideas and new ways for you to improve your site and your efficiency, really. And also, I put a few bits on there as well. Obviously, my slant is specifically cooling, so if you're into that sort of thing, you can add me on LinkedIn as well. I'd be more than happy to bother you with my occasional rambles. So again, thank you very much for joining today. Any questions, please put them in the chat now. If not, have a great day and hopefully see you soon.